Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
Bam. Dude, we're entering the 30s.
Yeah, I'm already in my 30s, so.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm 31.
It's all right. You have some experience.
Yeah, I've got some experience.
You can send us into the 30s.
I'm 30 with 1 year's experience.
There you go. Perfect. That's all we need. Now we're prepared.
Now we are prepared.
So we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite topic that we're probably all very sad that we don't get to experience
right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been some going on.
True.
We're going to be talking about reptile expos. But before we get this episode started, make sure that you are following us on Instagram. We'll be posting pictures with each episode from some of the guests that we've had on. So if you want to see some of the animals that they're talking about or see who we're talking about specifically, check us out on Instagram at reptile.talk. You can follow Jeremy at Brassman Reptiles and me at Rob is Creeping It Real.
Bam, look at that plug right there.
Look at that right there. Before we get started, I don't want to get too deep into it, but just make sure you check out our Instagram. It's got a lot of cool stuff with the episodes that we got coming out.
Oh, yeah.
So for reptile expos, I think we talked a little bit about like some of our first reptile expos. I don't know if I talked about my first reptile expo. Maybe I did. It was like this really small room with like 6 vendors, and it was the Massachusetts Reptile Expo.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah, and then you went to White Plains for your first expo, which is like
sensory overload,
mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's a giant reptile expo.
Dude, could you imagine if you lived close enough to have Tinley be your first reptile expo?
No. I would be a nutcase. Like, I would literally be like, I'm obsessed with reptiles, but I would have gone off the deep end if I had like that sort of access to stuff. Like, it would have been silly.
I would have gone off the deep end because back then it not only would have been like the crazy animals to see there, but also people with suitcases of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have been like, I need to vent here.
I don't understand what's happening, but I like it.
I need to be a part of it. Pretty much.
I need a suitcase full of money.
Yeah. And not spend it at the Reptile Expo.
Oh, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I know that's not how it works.
Oh, man. Oof. Yeah. So I remember going to the trip to White Plains was a frustrating trip.
It's a hike from where we were.
Yeah. So it was about a little more than 2 hours. Not too bad, but a little more than 2 hours for me. But I remember it was me and my mom and I think one of our friends who went with us. And we're driving. And back then you had a GPS. You didn't have a GPS app.
Not on your phone.
You had a GPS.
Like a one that's
the Garmin.
Garmin.
Yeah.
Right to your windshield.
And and all it said, we were on like 91 South. And all it said was take exit 21. But it didn't say in how many miles or anything, just said take exit 21. So we take exit 21 and we're like, we don't understand what it's telling us to do now.
It's the cheaper Garmin.
Yeah, exactly. So we finally get off and we're like, now mind you, exit 21 was still a fair bit of ways into Connecticut. Yeah. By the time we were like there. So we finally like asked, we don't understand what is it. Oh yeah, you still got to go about an hour and 5 minutes before you're even close, you know. And we're like, huh? So got back on the highway. We're all like frustrated at that point, you know. Even I was too, because I went from being like, yay, reptile show, to are we there yet?
Yeah,
like literally. We're late. Yeah, we're definitely late. And then finally got there, and it was like, oh, that exit 21.
Dude, the night before the Reptile Expo, I could never sleep. When I was a kid, I used to get so amped. I would just be sitting there and be like, "It's time to go yet. It's time to go yet." And then we get up in the morning, and my mom would be like, "Let's make some breakfast. Let's hang out." And I was like, "Look, Reptile Expo!" And I was like, losing it. I can't do anything. I need to Reptile Expo. I just lose it. Like, luckily enough, the Manchester show was like the show that I would go to on a more regular basis from Manchester, New Hampshire to where I was living was about an hour, like maybe a little bit, right around an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour. So I was like, oh, it's taking forever. It's taking forever. And it's an hour drive away, which is not a long time at all. But when I was a kid, it was like, oh, I gotta, the anticipation was too much.
Yeah.
And my, in the morning when I'll be like, let's just go casually. Like, we don't want to get there right when it opens because there's going to be a line. And I was like, I want to be first in line. What are you talking about?
I want to be the line.
I want to be the line,
Yeah.
literally. I used to get so amped up. And it was something that I looked forward to for like months because there was not reptile expos all the time. Like now people are spoiled. There's like reptile expos almost every weekend. I mean, not because of COVID. With COVID now, not really. Yeah. But before COVID, on the East Coast, if you wanted to go to a reptile expo, you could pretty much go to one almost every weekend of the year. There's like very few times where there was not reptile expos. But when I was younger and I first started going to expos, the Manchester, New Hampshire Expo happened once in the spring and once in the fall. So you saved up all your money over the summertime, and then you went to the fall expo and blew all your money there. And then you saved up over the wintertime, and then at the spring show, you blew all your money there. Yep. So vendors made a lot of money, and I got to see cool animals, and I got to get my feeders twice a year, and everything was cool. And then now reptile expos happen, before COVID, they were happening every other month. Yeah. Pretty much. Yep. And no one spends any money because, let's go to the next one. Or I'll buy it online.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Times have changed. Different. Yeah.
It's a little different.
Yep.
Did you spend a lot? Did you go to the Manchester Expo a lot? I would see you at the Manchester Expo, but
I would go. I would go from time to time. New York was really my jam.
But it's so much bigger,
and it just happened more frequently.
Yes.
So usually what ended up happening, because it would be like, okay, I would usually do the fall Manchester show, and then more often than not, either I had plans the day of the spring show, or the spring show for Manchester and first spring show for White Plains were within like a week of each other, and I'm like, I'd rather go to New York.
Yeah.
Because New York was certainly much larger, and there was a bit more of a variety down there. Minus like retics and stuff, but just overall, because there were so many vendors there was a lot more to see. But yeah, the Manchester show is where I bought like my first spider ball python.
Do you care to say how much you spent on it?
Hundreds of dollars.
The first bumblebee that I got, I saved up for a while, and it was $750, and I was like, this is the most amazing snake ever, and I was like so excited, and they were still going for like $900 or $1,000 at the time, and I got one for like $750, $800, and I was like so amped. And I still love bumblebees. I don't care what anyone says. I still love them, and that's one of the few ball pythons I still have is a bumblebee, just because I love the way that they look. And that animal was just like, I spent a lot of money on this. I hope you do well.
Yeah.
And he did. He did great. I was just like I was like 20 years old or 19 years old or something. And so I was just like saving all my money from work. I was like trying not to go out and do things. I was like, I need to save all this money. Save it all.
Yeah. I think that spider probably cost me like $350 or $400.
Okay.
Like that's
okay.
So it was like
probably right around the same time about that bumblebee.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was, I don't even want to know how old I was. Oof. It was a while. It was a while ago. I was pretty young. Yeah. I was already kind of getting comfortable with spending hundreds of dollars on per reptile, I guess.
I've never been comfortable. I still look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I just spent how much on that stuff? But
yeah.
I'm just trying to justify it now that it's an investment. It's not. I'm not just blowing money on snakes. Yeah. I'm working towards something.
Yeah, for sure. That's holding back things to spend more money on feeders.
Yes.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. I'm there too, bro.
You know. No big deal.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's bad though, because that's led me to get complacent dropping figures with commas.
Ooh,
for certain animals. The comma is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
But I will not say I've become friends with the comma, but
no.
I see myself more closer to an equal with the comma. Oh boy, the comma. But no, man, White Plains. I'm sorry, Manchester had a lot of like firsts for me for buying certain things because being a smaller show, like it was a lot more like local vendors and kind of regional, but there were a lot more like local people to the New England area that were like there. Yes. So that's where I made a lot of local connections for the New England area. That's where I got connected with Rob Hannison, who at the time was like breeding Honduran milk snakes and had like some of the nicest Honduran milk snakes in this area. And I got really, really friendly with him. And now he's breeding Leachianas. He pretty much like got out of snakes totally.
What a jump, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
Most people who he
liked lychees. Yeah, he liked lychees back then, but like he didn't like dive all into him. He's like, I'm just kind of trying them out, and he like really liked him and got to a point where he was like, snakes kind of got to go. I think it had something to do with having a kid and like all that, and price point too for sure. But dude, I can remember being at his table, and he never vended New York. So if I ever wanted to see cool hondos, it was either drive to his place or wait for the Manchester show, and the distance was almost the same. So I just waited for the Manchester show, and damn, he had some of the nicest tricolor tangerine albinos. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Some really, really nice ones. Who else, man? There were some people.
See, I feel like the reptile expos are a great place for people to network and meet, people who are into the similar projects that you're into.
Oh, yes.
I mean, there has been in the last like 10 years a huge change, maybe in the last 15, that, people used to do a lot of variety and then they kind of swapped over and did a lot of ball pythons. A lot of people got rid of their variety, and then a lot of the variety is starting to come back now. People are getting into a variety of other things, other species, going from snakes to lizards, that sort of thing. Or just expanding beyond just working with ball pythons into short tails or retics or whatever else people are ended up doing. But it's a great place to talk to people who are into the same things that you're into, because like that's how I met Jason Chapman. That's how I ended up working with him or kind of building those roots with him. Is I would go to the Manchester show, and he had a table with bloods and short tails and Amazon tree boas, and I was like, dude, yeah, that's the stuff that I like to see. I love those. And not a lot of people were into bloods and short tails, back then. So I was like, dude, I got to pick your brain, because I didn't. But when I first met him, I didn't have any bloods or short tails. I think I only had just my ball python, I probably met him before I had any snakes. I just had lizards. And I was just like, dude, I gotta pick your brain about reptiles. So I would just sit in front of his booth, and while he wasn't talking to customers, I would just sit there and like pick his brain and ask him questions and like check out his stuff. And I was always super geeked to see his table, because he always had cool stuff on there that a lot of other people wouldn't have on there, especially where he was working on breeding those things. So it wasn't just like, oh, I got an imported blah blah blah. He like actually produced blood pythons and produced Amazon tree boas. And so I would just like pick his brain. And then that kind of led to, after, knowing him for 8 years or whatever, 10 years that I had known him, when he was thinking about opening up a reptile store, he was like, hey, do you want to manage like I know I don't know what you're doing for work right now, but like you're super smart. You work with reptiles. You're into a lot of the same things that I am. Would you want to come and manage my reptile store? And I was like, you give me 2 weeks for my job and I'm out. I'm doing it, right? Like let me know right now and I'm there. But that connection never would have been made if it wasn't for seeing him at Reptile Expo, seeing him at the Mass show, seeing him at the Manchester show, getting a chance to build that friendship and that relationship. I kind of knew him a little bit online from forums and stuff, but really getting to know him was more in person at those expos, where you can kind of put a face to that name. So it's not just, oh, I saw that person on Facebook. It's like actually a person that you can build that bond and share that information with, because that's where you get most of your information. You can read a lot of care sheets online, but unless you're talking to someone who's actually reproduced those animals and is working with those animals extensively, a care sheet only goes so far.
That's true. It
just doesn't.
Book smarts don't trump street smarts.
Yes. Yeah.
In most instances.
For most instances.
No, I definitely hear that though. I mean, I just to think about, again, like Rob Hannison and, even though I was already very friendly at the time that I was going to those shows with Adam Harris down in Connecticut, seeing him at the shows, because it's not like I was going to his shop every day, so seeing him at the shows would always be like, oh man, what'd you bring? Like, what do you have in that's new? So like when I first started, I was like really into colubrids because Adam was like basically my go-to guy, and he was all into colubrids. I joke with him now because back then he was like, ball pythons, whatever, not really my thing. And now he's like, check out these ball pythons
Look at
I
this
just hatched.
thing.
And I'm like,
You remember. You
remember. And it's funny because like when he came up, because he was up this way not that long ago,
yes.
And I was talking with him and showing him some ball pythons, and I'm like, remember when you didn't like these? He's like, hey, it's not that I didn't like them. It's just that everybody.
Backpedal.
I was like, nah, you didn't like them.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I didn't really like them. But so he would always get really bizarre colubrids in, and that used to always get me super intrigued because ball pythons and stuff were great, but sometimes colubrids, they have a lot of those missing color palettes and stuff that we don't see in ball pythons. Oftentimes they're a little bit easier to manage and maintain because they're not thick, bodied, super intense heat requiring species. For the most part, there are some exceptions, but they tend to be a little bit easier to manage overall. So like just seeing more stuff like, oh my God, where'd you get that? Like, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the species. Bimaculata, Chinese twin-spotted rat snakes. Yes. I saw the first ones at Adam's table, and I was like, ooh. Oh my God, those are awesome. Like, oh my God, I was like, I need it. I don't care what it is. And I was so mad because I got that one from Adam and then could not, for the life of me, find anybody that had them back then. So I just had this male forever and ever, and I ended up selling it. And now, of course, there are a few people who are publicly saying that they have them and that they're breeding them. Frustration. And that, it literally would have just been a project of enjoyment, for me. I just really liked that species. Man, I'm trying to think who else. There were some people. Even like Adam G.
Yes, dude.
Like White Plains, man, the Komodo booth, man. Yep. Him and Pete and Mike Kostakos, and like all those guys that are like on the back wall.
Corner, yep. And they have Borneos on their fucking table of marbles, and I was like, yes, you guys, yes.
You get it. Yep.
And you know what? I always made a point to stop at their table and ask them about the different projects they were working with, because those guys are just so down to earth, and they are working with some really cool stuff. And I'm just like, dude, they've got that like. They're not flash. They're not trying to be flashy. They're not trying to be something they're not. But they know so much, dude. It was just like anytime that I talked to them, I felt like I learned a little bit something new and something that I could apply to what I was doing, because those guys are just so like into it, and they're so open to like just sharing that, because they can see how much I was into it, dude. I was just like, I always stopped at their table to at least try and talk to them for a little bit when they were vending at White Plains. Oh yes.
Yep. And of course, almost forgot, but can't forget Mike Curtin.
I was gonna say Mike Curtin is right on the other side of the stairs, there. Yeah.
Yep. And damn it all, if Mike didn't taunt me and tease me with carpets, as soon as he learned that I was like into it and was like, oh my God, these things are really cool, and then he started doing all the ocelot stuff. It was like, hey, come here,
you gotta come look at this.
Come here, come look at that. Look at that, you should buy that. I'm like, I hadn't made friends with the comma at that point, so I was like, it's not
very
for
pretty.
me. It is. I would love it if you would just give it to me. I would love you for it. But yeah, and Mike, most of my fucking jungles are from Mike, so, and being able to go back and forth with him, on different stuff, and like I've produced things that he's like, what's that?
What you got there?
What's that, huh? And I'm like, this is cool. I like this. And like, so Mike was like, bam, like one of the guys. He was also like one of the first guys I ever saw at White Plains with info about nidovirus.
Yes.
So like he's always been like out there learning, and engaging in like what's happening in the community. And I've always respected that about him.
100%. He's just a super friendly dude.
And he's just a super awesome guy, dude.
I love that guy.
Super awesome guy.
Dude, I can't tell you, like, the first time that I saw Keith McPeak at White Plains, I was so geeked, dude. I was like, oh, holy shit, because he was like, he had like a little half of a table or something. He was sharing a table with his friend or whatever. And I was like, whoa, because I wasn't looking up. Usually when I'm at an expo, I'm always looking down
at the table.
Looking at the animals, just like scanning through, trying to see if there's anything that I'm like into there. And I'm like walking along the aisle, and then I see, wow, that Borneo's awesome. Wow, look at that Borneo. Look at that blood pipe. Whose table is this? And I look up and it's Keith. And I was like, oh my God, it's Keith McPeak. And I was like so geeked out. And I was like, dude, oh my God. And so we're sitting there talking about Borneos and stuff. And he's hanging out there with his family. And I'm just like, oh my God. Because he's like the Borneo guy. And Matt Minatola is like the Borneo guy now. But like a lot of the foundation was kind of set by Keith. And I was just like, holy crap, just getting to see that person that you kind of look up to like that, and be able to talk to them and just like, you know, bounce some ideas off of them and ask them what they're seeing and the stuff that they're producing and stuff. It was always just like an amazing thing to me that I could just get a chance to talk to him and just kind of hang out. And, you know, I consider him a great friend now, and he's just like, him and his family are amazing. They're great.
Yeah, for sure. And
again, Reptile Expos, if it hadn't been for going to Reptile Expos and actually getting to build that FaceTime with them, it would not be a thing.
And see, I don't think, if I ever saw Keith at White Plains, it was never, like, I at that time wasn't really into Bloods and Short Tails like that, so I didn't really know who he was. I didn't start to learn who he was until I was getting really heavy into carpets, because he's also like in that same realm, circle too. And I had finally gotten the chance to talk to him just a couple of years ago at Carpet Fest, and that was like my first like real interaction. And then like I started like, I scoped him out and was like, who is this guy? Because everybody's talking to him, you know. And then I was like, oh, he's got some baggage.
Yeah, he's got street cred.
You know, he's got the cred. You know, and like I dig it.
Yes. Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah, when I saw him I went to the Daytona Expo in 2009, and I saw him down there, and I didn't want to take up too much of his time because he was doing a lot of sales and like he was on top of it and everything. Yeah. So I just like was hanging out at his booth and like just checking things out, and I was just like drooling over some of the Borneos that he had there, because he just had like some of the nicest Borneos around. And you know, I didn't talk to him a lot back then. I didn't know him as well. I just kind of knew him from online. I just kind of knew him from forums. So I hadn't built that kind of relationship or like, you know, friendship with him at that point. But then seeing him at the White Plains Expos, I was like, oh, you're in my neck of the woods. Like, it's not just like I just saw you one time deal. Like, hey, this is cool. And speaking of White Plains and seeing people there, Brian Barczyk, like when he used to vend the White Plains Expo, he would drive from Michigan to New York to sell at that expo, and he would always have the end cap. Like when you walked in on the right hand side, he had the end cap like all the way to the right. And I knew him through YouTube. And I used to comment on his stuff all the time and blah blah blah, and I got to know him through YouTube. And when I would go out and visit him, or when I would go out to that expo, he would always have like one or two employees with him there. And like he was selling mostly like a lot of colubrids. He had some ball pythons and, you know, occasionally an oddball here and there. But most of the stuff was like, you know, bread and butter stuff that, you know, people are getting into snakes. That's what they want. Yeah. And so one day I saw that he was just like swamped. There was just like a lot of people around his booth. He only had like one or two other people there helping him out. And I had already done my sweep of the expo. And so I was like, dude, do you want help? Because like, I'll come help you. Like, you don't have to pay me or anything. I just like help you sell stuff. Because I know all the stuff that he's got there is eating. It's all healthy and all that.
Yeah.
All great stuff. Yeah. So I was like, I'll help you. Like, just talk to customers and like get them set up. If they want to pay for anything, I'll give them to somebody so they can buy stuff. Yeah. But if they just have questions about the animals, I can help you out. And he was like, dude, if you could do that, that'd be great. So I kind of made that a thing. So like for a while, for maybe a couple of years, not every expo, but any expo that I went to that he was there. If he needed help at his table, I was there. I was helping him out for at least a couple hours, while after I'd done my rounds and bought stuff that I need to buy my rodents or whatever, I would go there and help him vend at that show. And it kind of started as a joke from one of my friends, Limey, but I would bring cupcakes.
Limey.
Yeah. So, dude, do you know how that actually started? Because a lot of people know me as like the Cupcake Guy.
Yeah.
Do you know how that started?
I don't know how that started.
Okay,
actually.
so you're going to let in a little secret right here.
Okay.
So on Facebook, some of my friends had made candy. They like saw on like, I don't remember what YouTube channel it was. It was like Epic Mealtime or something. But they made like candied bacon where they like put bacon on a cooking sheet and then you coat it in brown sugar and then bake it, and it like basically caramelizes the outside of the bacon. It makes it delicious. So my friends saw that and they were like, we should do that and put it on a cake. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And they were like, let's just try it because it looks good. Let's try it.
Yeah.
So my friends actually did it without me. Like I wasn't involved in that situation, but I had come over after they made it and they were like, Rob, you gotta try this. You gotta try this. Exactly. And so I tried it and I was like, oh my God, this is so good. Oh, this is amazing. And I posted it on my Facebook. And Limey had commented on it, and he was like, "Oh, you need to make me some of that. Like, you need to do that." Yeah. And I was like, "I only see what Reptile Expos do. Like, how am I gonna do?" And he's like, "My birthday's coming up. Do it." And so I was like, "I don't think I can
Good
do
old
that."
Limey. Yeah.
Because he was just messing around.
Yeah.
And I was 100% serious. So I was like, I wonder if I could do it on like a smaller scale and put the candied bacon on a cupcake. And I'll bring cupcakes for him because that's like small and you can give them to the people who are working at your table.
Yeah.
And so I made like 40 cupcakes and I brought them to the White Plains show, that next White Plains show. And he said it was right around his birthday. And so I did my once around and then I go out to my car, grab the cupcakes and I bring them in and Bruce looks at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "They're for my friend's birthday. I just gotta bring." And he's like, "Okay, as long as it's not reptiles, you can bring it in."
Yeah.
So I walk up to Limey's booth and I'm like, "Happy birthday, dude!" And he's like, "What the fuck is that?" And I was like, "Cupcakes? You wanted cupcakes?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "You said on my page on Facebook that you wanted me to bring you cake with a bacon on it. So here's cake with a bacon on it." He's like, "Oh, I don't want that." And I was like, "What do you mean you don't want it?" And he was like, "Oh, I guess I'll take one." And then he's like giving it to other people at his table. So they took like 5 of them. Yeah. So I had like 30 extra ones. And I was like, "Here, they're for you." And he's like, "Don't give them to me. I don't know. We don't want those here." And I was like,
Limey.
I know. I love Limey, dude. He's great.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
So I was like, okay, who else do I know here? And so like I went over to Brian's table and I was like, "Hey guys, I made cupcakes for Limey," and he was like right across the aisle from Limey.
Yeah.
And I was like, "I made these for Limey," and he took the ones that he wanted. "Do you guys want some cupcakes?" And they were like at like 1 o'clock. If you ever vended an expo around 1 or 2 p.m.,
the lunch rush,
you get exhausted. Really exhausted because you're not leaving your table. You're not able to go get lunch or food or whatever.
You've probably been standing for the vast majority of the day.
So I came over there and they were like, "Oh my God, yes." So I gave them a bunch of them and they had like a couple each. But there's only a couple people vending with them. So I just went over to the other vendors that I knew and I was like, "Hey, I got all these extra cupcakes. Do you guys want some?" And so everyone that I brought them to was like, "Oh my God, I love you." And they tried them because they were like, "Bacon on a cupcake, that's not right." And then they tried it and they were like, "Okay, this is the best thing I've heard in a long time," especially when you're hungry at a reptile expo. So after I did that once, a bunch of people commented on my Facebook page and they were like, "You should do that at every expo." And I was like, maybe. I mean, maybe I'll do it. Yeah. And then the next expo rolled around and I was like, you know what? Let's just do it and I'll see how it goes. And I ran out of cupcakes very quickly because word had got out that I bring cupcakes. So like I brought them to my friends and by the time I got to like my last couple friends, there was no cupcakes and they were like, "What the fuck?" And they were mad. They were like, "Why didn't you bring? I was looking forward to those cupcakes." So I made it a point to at every expo that I go to from like then on, or as many as I could, I would make 50 or 70 or 100 or 200.
I was just saying, I think I've seen you with hundreds.
Yeah, when I did Tinley not last year, but the year before, I literally made 500 cupcakes.
Jesus.
I was like, I'll just give them out to everyone, and then not everyone wanted them, so I ended up with like a lot of extra cupcakes. But that's beside the point.
It's food for the road.
Any of the expos that I attended in New England, I would bring candy bacon cupcakes, and it kind of became a thing where people would see me and they'd be like, "You got cupcakes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got cupcakes." I don't like to bring them in first thing in the morning. I like to bring them in after like 12 or 1 so that everyone gets a little hungry and they're not like, I usually freeze them the night before so that they're thawed out and they're fresh when people get to eat them. So,
yep.
I don't know. That's a long, convoluted story of the candied bacon cupcake. All from Limey. Everyone who has enjoyed a candied bacon cupcake, message Limey. Thank him because it all started with him and him not wanting the cupcakes.
That bastard.
But
oh my gosh.
That's like whenever Lori would come to Brian, she was always like, "The cupcake kid come by," and I'm like, so she likes those cupcakes. And
that's true.
I don't blame they're good.
No, they were talking about it on their podcast.
On the Technique podcast. Yeah.
He used to bring all the cupcakes.
The cupcakes. Yeah, a lot of people just know me as cupcakes. So.
Hey. Could be worse things to be remembered for.
I'll take that over Snake Musk.
100%. Yeah, he always smells like the stinky snake.
It's funny because like when I'm bringing around cupcakes, sometimes I'll bring them in or I'll carry them around in a bin, and it's a bin that I would like use. Most people would use for snakes, but it's one that I put like aluminum foil down in the bottom.
Yeah.
And so people see the aluminum foil in the bottom, and it's like blocking the sides, and they're like, "What has he got in there?" Like expecting me to have some like crazy snake in there,
and you're like,
and then they look in there like cupcakes, and that is not what I was expecting. And then the next thing out of their mouth is that bacon on a cupcake? Every single time.
Yep.
And then I'm like, yes, it's bacon on a cupcake. And then they're like, can I have one? And if you see me when I first get in the expo, the answer is no, because they go to the vendors first.
Yep.
And then if you see me after I visit the vendors, then I'll be like, I got a couple left. Take one if you want one.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's funny. I don't have the cupcake story, but when it comes to Barczyk, but I met him at the White Plains show. I think this was back 2009 or something like that. So it's been a while, and I very rarely have I ever been any kind of like, oh my god, like
yes,
this is blah, blah, blah.
It's so and so.
But when I learned that Brian was going to be at that expo, I went to my mom and I was like, listen, I know we weren't planning to go, but we need to go because Brian's going to be there and I need to meet him. And she was like, okay, we'll figure it out, whatever. So we ended up going, and I saw Chewy first because Chewy was there, and I was like, oh my god, this is Chewy. And then so I finally get over there. I had to like muster up the like gumption to go talk to him. And he was like super chill and like introduced me to everybody, blah blah blah. And I was basically like every expo like was there. He was there, I was there, and it essentially ended up becoming the same thing. If he looked like crazy swamped, it was basically like, because I usually, if I wasn't vending there myself, I usually got a vendor badge.
Yep.
Because I knew somebody who either needed help or had an extra, and they were just like, here, whatever.
See, I wasn't smart enough to do that. I literally would wait in the line.
Oh no, I hated it. You know what the turning point was for me? I went out to a show and it was like winter.
Yeah.
And it was hella cold and the line was
outside,
hella long, and I was like, never again.
Yep.
Like, so from that point on, it would be like, hey, you got one of them badges?
Yeah.
Listen, buddy, I'm coming. You got one of the badges.
Dude, really funny little aside before you tell the rest of your story.
Yeah.
The first time that I went to Tinley was when Brian was still attending Tinley. Brian Barczyk was still attending Tinley. And I bought like the VIP badges, but we were waiting out in the line still to get in for VIP.
Yeah.
And Brian was coming out with his crew who was filming, and they're going down the line, and he passes me and he looks at me and he's like, Rob. And his camera guy keeps going, and he comes over to me. He's like, what are you doing out here? And I was like, waiting to get inside. It's still. He's like, why didn't you call me? I would have got you vendor badges. You could have come in. And I was like, I'm an idiot. I didn't even think to ask. I didn't want to bother you. And he was like, oh, no, dude, it's totally chill. Just come up. We're going back in after we're done filming, so just come with us. And so, like, I went in with him, and I was like, I am dumb. I should have been doing that the whole time.
It's always like, you never want to be like,
I don't want to be that guy.
In.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Hook me up. Yeah. Hook me up. And especially, like, I used to never feel comfortable doing that because, like, from a musician standpoint, you always hate to be like, hey, man, put me on the list.
Yeah.
Put me on the list, man. Let me, hook me up. Because especially if it's like somebody you want to support, like you want to go to support, part of that support is financial support.
Yes.
So if you know somebody in a band, just pay the fucking door fee.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just got tired of hearing from the same people, oh, just let me know when you're coming. You should have just let me know you were coming. So I was like, all right, bro, I'm going to tell you the next time I'm coming. And it's worked 90% of the time.
Yes.
The other 10% of the time, it's, oh, we brought somebody.
Yeah, we already got somebody filling that spot.
Yeah, and you're like, fuck, okay. So that first expo that I met Brian at, that was literally one for the history books and one that Brian certainly will never forget.
Yeah.
Because that was the expo that my mom got railed in the face by that blood python.
I was at that expo.
Yeah. So I remember taking her bloody face and all over to Brian's table, looking at Chewy and being like, beat
That's
that,
a bite.
bitch.
That's a bite.
Oh, man.
For those of you who don't know, Chewy was a guy who worked for Brian back in the day, and his thing was he got bit by things.
Yeah. Yep. That was it.
That was his spiel.
That was his thing. So I don't think he ever one-upped the bite to the face.
The blood bite to the face?
Yeah, no. I think he did baby alligator to the nipple, but that's not blood to the face.
I don't think that I've upped that, so I'll
it's fine. That. Yeah, no, it's fine. Definitely don't need to up that one at all. Shout out to you, Mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after that, it was like every show, if he was there for White Plains and like looked like he was getting swamped, I would just be like, "Hey, dude," or it was, we've already established enough of a friendship where I'm gonna walk behind the table, and just be like, say hello and whatever, and be like, "Do you need help? Are you good? Whatever." And through that, I ended up meeting a fair bit of people just because he always was bringing people, either his people from his crew or friends he had in the area that he would just hit up and be like, hey, whatever. But yeah, Brian Barczyk.
Dude, it's crazy to think of the network that I've made over the years, because I don't think about myself as that guy. I get people who come into Nerd Now and they see me downstairs and they're like, oh my, it's the guy. You're on the YouTube channel. And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, we do YouTube videos here. I forgot that we did that thing. I also do 100 other things, too.
Yeah,
but,
we're not.
Yeah, I don't feel like a celebrity. But, when I go and I've networked and I know a lot of people, it's so weird to go to an expo. And it's like, a lot of people who go with me to an expo hate going to an expo with me because they're like, you just talk to, like, everyone. You know everyone here. And I'm like, I try to network. I try to, if I've got an interest in geckos, I try and find this, the gecko that I'm interested in, that people work with it, and I try and talk to them. I try and find that commonality, because the thing that kind of brings us together for those events is reptiles.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing that brings us all together. I'm throwing it back right to the
That's it. Right to the
theme.
intro.
Yeah.
There you go.
But, like, when you get a chance to talk reptiles, because for me, I live an exception to the rule, because most people don't have a lot of reptile people around them in their everyday life that they can just nerd about reptiles with. It's just not something that happens. And I'm in a very weird situation or unusual to the normal, that I'm surrounded by people who like eat, breathe, and sleep reptiles. Very true. And I can just talk reptiles with everybody, and I don't talk about anything else. Most of the time. But for the other people, when you go to an expo, when you go to a Herp Society meeting, you get to like share that excitement with people who feel that same excitement, as opposed to posting a picture of your snake on Facebook and people going, burn it with fire, burn down your house, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Which is some people, some people, I see posts on Facebook all the time of people who have like a couple snakes, and they're like, I can't even post pictures of my pet that I love because people tell me to burn my house down, and it's terrible. Yep. And it's like so frustrating, because I am so far removed from that. I only post reptiles, so those people weed themselves out. They wouldn't even make it to my profile if they felt that way, because that's all they're going to see.
Yep, 100%. I'm glad that I post more reptile stuff now. I've posted more reptile stuff now in the last year than I have in a while, obviously because I'm at Nerd.
Yes.
So I'm doing reptiles full time. But for a good 6 years, when I was doing music full time,
a lot of music.
It was all music based, or for the most part music based, and a couple of reptile things thrown in there, right? And as I started to transition and get more into I would go to gigs, or I would go to music related conventions, and people, you're the guy with the snakes. My profile was fucking normal until we became friends, and I just kept seeing freaking snakes. Who the fuck are you?
Oh my god!
And I'm like, get ready for a wild ride, buddy.
Yeah,
here we go.
I only post 40% of all the things I'm working with. You're like, oh boy, here it comes.
Yeah, exactly. Though, exactly.
I've had a lot of my family members, though, that they're like, I had to unfriend you on Facebook because all you post is snakes. And I'm like, that's fair. I don't take it personally.
No, I had some teachers that would be like, hey, is there any way that you can, remove me from your feed? Because I still want to see your feed. I just don't want to see the reptile thing. Is there a way you could, edit it out? And I had, a large enough number of people that had requested it, or I basically made a publish setting that I called the anti-reptile people.
Oh.
And it was only because I wanted to keep that relationship with these were people that I had to see every week, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to deal with thanks for this snake photo again, So I was like, I got to work with you guys. So I'm willing to do it because you're nice people. Now I'm like, sorry, that's all you get.
Deal with it.
It's all you get. Now it's flopped. Every once in a while you'll see a picture of me with a trumpet, but for the most part it's snakes. So deal with it.
Deal with it. And like it.
Yep. You better like that photo. Nothing more annoying than hearing, oh, I saw you posted that on Facebook, but I didn't see your name pop up on the likes. No support.
No.
Dude, isn't that's that is probably one of the more irritating things for me at least, when especially from the music stuff, when somebody's like, oh yeah, I saw you were doing whatever, blah blah blah, I saw your post on Facebook, and you're like, but your name didn't come up at all in the comment section or the reaction section, so you just creeping my Facebook profile, bro. You can literally just click and because people also don't understand what that does for the algorithms. So the more engagement, the better it is, know. So just click, just a heads up for anybody who's unaware. If you're a weird Facebook creep, and you're looking at somebody's photo or post, and at some point you're probably going to see that person and be like, oh yeah, I saw this really cool thing. You better have fucking liked that.
Like it.
You better have liked it.
Throw a like on it.
Yeah. You literally, now you don't have to worry about loving it or caring about, you don't have to worry about it. Just click like and then keep scrolling. If you're going to be that guy, because I've called people out.
Really?
I've 100% called people out because the social media, I don't want to go on a huge tangent, but the social media algorithms are weird. We obviously know that, whatever. And I would get people, I'd share a post about a concert, and maybe 20 people would like it. And I knew every one of those people because it was my band,
the people who are going to be there,
and my immediate family, and then the people who I knew were going to show up. And then I'd hear a week or so later from so and so, oh yeah, I saw that you were doing this concert, man. How was that? And I was like, oh, you saw that? Oh, that's cool. You didn't like it though. You didn't share it. You didn't help spread the word.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh well, but I'm supporting you, man. I'm showing you some support, and I'm like, literally, I appreciate that.
Yes,
I definitely appreciate that. But literally, the click of the share and the click of the like does so much for somebody who's trying to put anything out there. It doesn't need to be music based, whatever. The way those algorithms work, the more engagement there is, the better it is. And on a value system, shares are super valuable, comments are pretty valuable, and likes they're helpful. Yeah. So just in case anybody didn't know, whether it's, music thing or not, there's some value there.
I'm gonna let you in on a little. You're gonna be disappointed in me.
Oh no, were you one of those people?
No, well, kind of. When I first got Instagram,
yeah,
I was like super careful. I was like, did I like that picture? I don't know if it's a good picture, but it's not a great picture. I'm not gonna like it.
You graded it.
I was so terrible.
You graded it.
I felt like
bastard.
I was like, oh, I don't know if I mean, I like that snake, but it's like the picture isn't that great, so I'm not gonna like it. I was like so careful about it. Now I'm like, I see people post pictures of their dogs. I'm like, I don't even like dogs, but I like you. So hey, take that like right there. Take another like right here. How about that? Your baby, I like that. I don't want a baby, but I like your baby.
Yeah.
Look at you. I like my friends.
So you're just
I'm throwing
out
likes. Yeah, I'm throwing them everywhere. I'm like, yeah, get that. You get a follow. I don't even know you. Look at that.
Oh,
look at that
no.
thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Follows are precious.
Donnie yells at me all the time because I follow too many people. I'm trying to cut back.
Yeah.
So a lot of you know what's really sad? I'm sorry, everyone. We're gonna take a quick little detour. We can even edit this out if you want to.
No, it's fine. I'm cool with the detour.
I went through my Facebook or my Instagram and I was looking at the number of accounts I follow because it was close to 1,500 or it was over 1,500, and I was looking at a lot of the pages that I had liked. Because when I first got Instagram, I was like, okay, I need to be really careful. And then after I followed a few accounts, I was like, fuck it, I'm following everything. So I kind of went too crazy and like followed too many things and liking too many things. And I went back and I was like, okay, I need to unfollow some of these accounts. So like a lot of the ones I don't interact with, because Instagram will show you which ones you don't see and which ones you don't interact with and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at it, I was like, because I love Boston Terriers and I followed a lot of Boston Terrier accounts. And so I went through and I was like, oh, I haven't seen any posts from this Boston Terrier in a while. And I go to the page and there's like a memorial post and it had died.
No.
It had died 2 years ago. And I was like,
oh no.
Oh no.
It's just unfortunate.
It happened like 5 or 6 times. I was like, oh no. Oh, that's so sad. Unfollow.
I'm so sorry. Hit him with the unfollow too.
Well, they're not gonna.
I know they're not gonna update anything.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it.
It was sad.
I get it.
It was very sad.
Bastard.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But so with COVID now confusing and bejumbling everything,
yeah,
I don't know what reptile expos are going to look like here in the future. I heard that the Repticons, what they were doing is that people will get a 2-hour wristband so that they can go in for their time slot. So if you show up anywhere between, say 10 and noon, you can come in and browse, and there's a certain number of people who are allowed into the venue to look and buy and do whatever they're going to do. And then at the end of those 2 hours, everybody clears out. If you got a wristband, if you're not a vendor, everybody's out. And then they have a cleaning crew come through with, spray, sanitizer, and all that stuff. And they sanitize the tables and the floor and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And then they wait 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is. And then the next 2-hour time slot, people can come in. And I think that's probably going to be the safest way to do things. But I've also heard of a lot of expos that are just like, fuck it. Like, just let everybody in. Let them do whatever they want. And, wear a mask. But other than that, free for all. And I think that is probably not going to do us any favors when it comes to the COVIDs. For anything, really. It's just not the safest thing for us to be doing. But I'm really curious to see what happens when 2021 rolls around and people are trying to get back to quote unquote normal, and what the expos are going to look like, because I have no idea what it's going to look like at all.
Yeah, it's going to be really bizarre, and especially if you just have like one local expo that you go to, you probably get some sense of normalcy and whatever the changes might be. But for those of us who travel for shows, it definitely looks like state regulations are going to really, really dictate how the expos are run and everything. So it'll take a little bit longer to get used to that. Like, it'll be really interesting to see how large scale reptile shows like White Plains, like Tinley, are even able to function.
Yes.
And then in some areas it seems like it's basically
like, whatever.
Nothing happened.
Did anything change?
Yeah.
Nah.
It's a little bizarre. Shout out to you, Florida.
Yeah. Pretty much. They were like, COVID, haven't heard of her.
COVID. That bitch?
Yeah.
We dropped her.
Yeah. We don't talk to her no
more. C4 to yo do, no problems no more.
No.
That's an insider, guys.
Yeah, sorry. But I'm really curious to see. And then also with people, like the more research is coming out about nidovirus, I'm really curious to see how that affects reptile expos as well, because it's not some isolated thing. It's something that is going to affect people on a much larger scale, and I don't think that people are ready to have that conversation yet.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I just speaking of nidovirus, I just sent a group email out to our team that we're trying to do that video
project
with and whatever. And I had asked, I haven't heard anything back from everybody just yet, but I asked if there's any new updates, any new research and whatever, because everything is slowed down in the midst of COVID, everything. So, because I think I had seen one of them had posted something about a new publication or an edited publication, but I didn't get the chance to read it, and now I can't find it. So I don't know. I forgot to like it. I did, because it was literally one of those, like, I'm on my phone for a brief second, now I'm distracted. So I didn't get a chance to like it. Shame. I know, that is my hypocritical moment for the day. We're all hypocrites, bitches. Get over it.
Yeah.
But just to see what kind of new updates are happening, and then it really comes down to, as more information is going out, then there needs to be those conversations with show promoters and stuff, and like, what are you going to do to ensure that there's some more biosecurity at the shows. And it literally might be, from starting at a basis, which has kind of already been a thing. Vendors should have hand sanitizer on their tables. At
every table,
regardless of nidovirus. Then it literally might even be as simple as, like, maybe reducing the number of vendors in a space by a handful to allow for a greater distance between tables. Or even putting up some kind of barrier between the tables, so, and it would take a little bit of time to get used to, for sure. But, in the instance of, again, biosecurity and maintaining that safe place to have an expo, where, when you think about it, where every time we go, you're setting up between next to one or two or sometimes even more people that are essentially touching your table.
Yes.
With their table, their displays, their animals, that they're in their own space outside of the show, their own husbandry, their own whatever, because nobody's husbandry is perfect, and you just never know what's in somebody's collection. True. Nidovirus can be asymptomatic for forever, so they could have an animal that has it and they just don't know. And with primers being updated, constantly, they might have animals that tested negative that could actually be positive, and they just don't know, and that's nobody's fault. But it's beginning to have those conversations. I think is something that you'll see within the next like year or two.
The next 2 years,
where it's like, okay, well, how are we going to work to prevent this? And I think one of the biggest things will also be a generalized rule of, no, you can't touch that animal unless you really plan on buying it. And I know a lot of times people, especially people who aren't looking to buy, get turned off when a vendor says, no, you can't hold that. But when it literally comes down to a biosecurity hazard and the animal's life, like, if you get mad at that, then you don't need to even be there. You don't
actually care about the animal that much.
You just want some cool little thing to put on display. So it will be interesting to see how that works out. And I mean, essentially, we just need to social distance our reptiles.
Yes,
it's basically what's happening.
I think that it's going to be very interesting. The next couple of years of reptile expos are going to be very interesting to see where it all lands, where it all falls, and how the expos are going to change. Because I know that a lot of the southern expos are kind of like a not a party, but like a social event where more than the reptiles, are people hang out and drink and shoot the shit, hang out after the show, after breakdown, and all that sort of stuff. And the Northeast expos are kind of more businessy, where it's like people show up, they do their business, and then everybody kind of
pretty much
out.
go. Yeah, you
might talk a little bit here and there, but it's not as social as the southern shows or the western shows. And I'm curious to see if the southern shows changed at all in regards to that, or whether it's just going to be like, we're fine, we're cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know, like, I saw a couple of clips from the Arlington U.S. Arc auction, because that's certainly, especially with all the NARBCs or even, Daytona, when they've got a bigger show that's doing one of those auctions, what is that going to look like? And it looked kind of empty.
Yeah.
But, of course, they have to adhere to their guidelines of how many people can be in the space and whatever. So for what it was packed. There were people at every table, in every seat, whatever. It just looked, if you've ever been to a U.S. Arc auction, it's generally packed, like wall to wall. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. But you deal with it for a good cause. Yeah. And this definitely didn't look like that. But from what I understood, they still raised a good bit of money, which is always important. So I don't know if the number has actually been released yet, but it's all an adjustment period for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how that manifests and gets tweaked as we continue to deal with things.
I hope that they still do guest speakers and have people educating people at the expos, because like that's one of my favorite things about the Tinley Park Expo was getting to see guest speakers there talk about the various things that they're passionate about, because I mean it's like an in-person podcast. You get to listen to someone talk about the things that they're really interested in and the things that they're picking up on. And this past year at Tinley, the 2019 October Tinley, they had a symposium talking about geckos, which was like amazing. There was cool. They talked about knob-tailed geckos and field herping different gecko species and the effects of UV light on them and stuff. And I was just like super geeked about that. I was so interested in that. They had the Gecko Symposium the night before Tinley, I think it was.
Yep.
And then the year before, they had Ari talking about Boelen's pythons, and they had people talking about crocodilian behavior, and that sort of stuff is like, yeah, you can watch a video about it online, but getting to talk to the people who are actually doing it is like so much more interesting to me
for sure,
than sitting at home and watching a YouTube video about it. Like I'm not knocking, if that's what your deal is, but like, it's so much more interesting to me when I get to meet that person and kind of bounce some ideas off of them, or just get to say, hey, I really appreciate the info that you're sharing. Like the person who did the crocodilian thing, I went up to them afterwards and I was like, that was amazing. Like I was not expecting that at all. I was not expecting any of that. And it really changed my kind of mindset on crocodilians and their learning behavior. It really caught me off guard, and I was not expecting to learn that at a reptile expo. And, you know, I wish that more expos did guest speakers and programs like that, because I think that it's huge. I mean, herp societies definitely can kind of fill that niche, but going to an expo and getting to experience it at an expo is just, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like that's a bit of a gap that a lot of expos are missing for sure. So who knows?
People just think it's a lot more business, but I think that's why I've really enjoyed the Tinley Park Expo, because I feel it's really well rounded. They have the auction to raise money for U.S. Arc, because U.S. Arc is out there helping protect our rights to keep reptiles and to enjoy these creatures, because there's a lot of laws being pushed forward and being submitted to kind of regulate the way that we can keep these animals and the ability to keep these animals. Like Florida trying to ban tegus and iguanas and successfully basically banning reticulated pythons and scrub pythons and anacondas and that sort of stuff. That's not an isolated thing. That's going to be something that is going to continue happening. So we need to support U.S. Arc and the work that they're doing to help make sure that we can still work with these animals. And so, you know, Tinley Park has got the U.S. Arc auction, help raise money towards U.S. Arc so that they can continue to help us in our ability to keep reptiles. They have the guest speakers coming there to share ideas that are new and evolving in the world of reptiles, so you can get that in-person podcast feel. And last year I was one of the guest speakers talking about educating the public and how people can help teach other people. And you know, and then the expo itself, getting to meet breeders and people who are working with the species that you're interested in. The Tinley Park Reptile Expo is one of the most well-rounded expos, in my opinion, you know, as far as at least ones that I've been to, where it comes to education, supporting the future of the hobby, and also having a wide variety of animals that are there. It's just like, it hits all the things that I kind of am into. So
for sure,
I like it. If you haven't got a chance to go to Tinley, you should try whenever they do it again.
Yeah,
you should do it. Or if you can attend any NARBC show, I would recommend it. Check 100%. It out.
Yep.
You know, Tinley Park definitely is the big one. People come from all over the country. I make the trek from New England. We drove 16 and a half hours, almost 17 hours straight.
Yep. We did
get there.
We did it.
And back.
And back. We did it.
We did it. Yeah. But, you know, to get a chance to put a name to a face, to meet those people that you're building your online, you know, relationships with, and getting to really solidify those friendships, because I mean that's what it's all about, man.
It really is worth it.
I love it.
Hell yeah. All right, dude. Thanks.
So Jeremy,
yeah,
people want to find out more about you. Where are they going?
Okay, you ready for this? There's a lot of places now. So Facebook, Instagram at Brassman Reptiles, Patreon at Brassman Reptiles, Twitter at Brassman Rep, and YouTube at Brassman Reptiles. Bam. How about you?
If you want to find out more about what I'm doing, the best place is probably to check me out on Instagram. I'm sharing a lot of my projects that I'm working with. It's at Rob is Creeping It Real. And then Twitter, Rob is Creeping. I don't really post on there that much, but I'm trying to be more good about it because Donnie tells me I need to be better about it. And then, you know, make sure that you check out the Reptile Talk page.
Yes.
At reptile.talk on Instagram. Check out our website, or, you know, if you're listening to this, you found it somehow, but we're on all major podcast platforms, Stitcher, Apple, Google Podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. Let us know how you think the podcast is going, any improvements that we might be able to make, and we're very glad that you got a chance to check out the Reptile Talk podcast.
Until next time, guys.
Until next time.
See ya.
Au revoir.